tired, confused, distracted, sometimes engaged, yes. Apprehensive. For teachers, students easily distracted. They don't have an adult standing next to them very often. Yes, very distracted. That's what everyone is saying. It's very difficult to get students' attention. Disconnected. Thank you, Rebecca. Yes, that's a good one, disconnected. Well, students and teachers, the ones who are teaching online actually all over the world are struggling with online teaching and learning. So students very often feel, as you said, disconnected, distracted, confused, bored, or even anxious. And it's very difficult, it's very challenging for teachers to get their students' attention and to engage and motivate their students through a computer screen. It's difficult to do it in person, but online it's a lot more challenging. So thank you very much for sharing, everyone. And today we will talk about teacher talk time and student talk time in online lessons. But more importantly, we will look at several different e-tools that can be used to maximize your student talk time in online lessons and also improve their involvement and engagement. And please note that we will focus mainly on online lessons today. However, many of these tools can actually be used for in-person lessons too. Margaret, over to you.
Okay, so before we share some useful e-tools with you, we have a few questions for you to get to know your idea of what you think is the optimal student talk time. The first question, during a lesson, teacher usually spend more talking time with students. Do you agree or disagree? You can give us a thumbs up on the screen or thumbs down, or you can use emoji in the chat box. If you're actually with your camera on, I can see you. I can see Marianne with thumbs up. Anyone? Okay, I see Mary with the thumbs up on the emoji. Anyone else? Oh, 2 more thumbs up. Seems like most people think that teacher do talk more in the lesson. Well, for the next 2 questions, I would like to use another platform to collect your feedback about student talking time. Let me switch that. There you go. I'm gonna share you a link in the chat box where you can give me your answer. It's multiple choice question. So you can just click using your mobile phone or on your desktop. If you're using mobile phone, there should be a green button, answer question button at the bottom. You can click on that and answer the multiple choice question. How much time you spend talking in your typical online lesson that you've done before? Again, you can use the platform Pear Deck, or maybe you can just type it in the chat box if you cannot see the question. 75%, said Jessica, 70, 100%. Okay, wow. Seems like everyone talk more in online lessons more than the face-to-face lesson. Okay, how about next one? What do you think is the optimal student talking time in either on face-to-face and on online lessons? 65, said Ben. Marie says 75%, the students. So it's more geared toward 70 or more % of student talk time. Okay. So John Hattie actually presents some interesting data in his book called Visual Learning and Teaching. He found that teachers talk for 70 to 80% of class time on average, very often without even realizing it. But I see you guys are really good realizing yourself talk more from your feedback. John Hattie explains that for lessons to be effective, teachers should limit their speaking to around 20 to 30% of the class time, and student talk time should be around 70 to 80%. So this is what he called 30-70 rule, which is very necessary component in a speaking lesson, which promotes students to talk more. And it's quite often challenging to achieve that 30-70% rule during face-to-face lesson. But is it possible to achieve this in online lesson? Why or why not? Anyone want to have a goal? Why do you actually spend more time talking than your students in online lesson? You can unmute or you can type that in the chat box.
Because the students sometimes have their cameras off, they're not really engaging, and when they are, there sometimes the microphones aren't turned off and everyone's shouting. If they're younger, it gets a little bit crazy.
Yeah, that's one reason they often not as responsive and they turn their camera off. Any other?
Yeah, you can put them into like chat rooms, but in my experience of online classes, there were like 70 students in a class. So it's a bit difficult to have split them up into like mini groups and get them to talk to each other. I got them to chat with each other by putting mini groups, but they were only like texting each other, sending messages. But with such a big class size, at that stage anyway, we didn't know how to split them up into like mini groups.
That's actually quite common. I heard other teachers having the same challenge as well. In the chat box, we have Jessica saying that you have to mute them because it's chaotic sometimes. Yes, sometimes they're too excited and proactive and they talk, and you have to mute them. And Rebecca said sometimes they talk over each other in the breakout rooms, they don't talk at all, which is something common as well in most teacher lessons. Well, we know there is a challenge.
Sorry.
But today, we think that if having 30-70 rule is not possible, but at least is to try to make your lesson engaging and active to have the student participation and engagement. Now I'd like to pass the floor back to Mariana to start showing you some e-tools that could help increase student talk time.
So when teaching online, we need to adapt the strategies and activities that we use to maximize student talking time and involvement. And the easiest way to do that is to use some e-tools that can help to increase student interest and the overall engagement in lessons. All right, so take a look at these e-tools. Are you familiar with any of them? Have you used any of these e-tools before? Type a number of the e-tool that you have used before in the chat box. No messages, so I assume people haven't used any of these tools, which is fantastic because we are going to present them today. So hopefully you will learn something new today. All right, and the first tool that I'd like us to talk about is called Story Jumper. Story Jumper allows students to create their own storybooks. It's an excellent way to give students more freedom over how they use English, but also encourage their creativity. So let me show you how it works. It's very easy to use. Students can work independently. They can also collaborate. So you can have a group activity where several students work on one ebook together. So students have a bunch of props to choose from. They also have different background scenes to choose from. They can add their own text. If you want them to personalize their storybook, they can even upload their own pictures. If you would like your students to focus more on speaking, you can also ask them to record their own voice and turn their storybook into an audiobook. So we think that this can really help you as a teacher get a few more students engaged in your online lessons. Another website that we would like to present today it's called Kialo Edu. Kialo Edu allows teachers to create online discussion rooms. and you can use it for discussions or debates with your students. It's also very easy to use. You can simply share a QR code with your students or a link, and they can join, and they don't even need to register. However, if you want your discussion room to be private, then your students need to use their email addresses to join the discussion room. But for public discussion rooms, they can simply follow a link and join the room. So here is an example of a discussion room. So you simply, create a discussion topic or a debate topic, then your students join the discussion room and they can simply share their ideas here. So as you can see, like their ideas will be organized into columns, pros and cons. Students can rate each other's comments. They can also leave comment on each other's comments. As a teacher, you can leave feedback. You can leave private feedback and public feedback as well. If you look to the left side of the screen, you will see a task box, which can allow you to personalize the discussion room and also set more specific targets for your students. So for example, students must write a minimum of 3 claims. They must comment on 2 other students' thoughts or comments. And let's say you have a list of tasks for them to complete, and they can only finish a lesson and leave the discussion room once they have completed all of the tasks here. It's not speaking, right? But it's a great way to get a large number of students involved in an online discussion. All right, and now we're going to look at the next one. So if you would like to focus solely on speaking skills, so not writing like Yalo Ado, right, but speaking skills, we recommend that you use a recording tool. And I have tested, when I was preparing for this presentation, I have tested many different recording tools. And I'm not very tech savvy, so some of these recording tools were just so complicated to use. And I was like, I would never ask my students to do this. And then I have found this one called Vocaroo or Vocaroo, no idea how to pronounce it. It doesn't matter, but it's a fantastic tool. It's a very easy to use recording tool. And if you look at my screen right now, you will see that the interface is very simple. It's literally one big red button. So I'm sure that even younger learners, even primary school students, can use this recording tool without adult supervision. So basically what students can do, they can record their own voice, right? They can record their presentations, poems, or whatever they are presenting in that specific lesson or as part of their homework assignment. And once they're done, they can, of course, play it. They can save the recording. They can generate a QR code, and they can download that QR code and share it in the class chat on Google Classroom with their parents, with their friends. They can just download the recording to their device, to their computer, or they can simply copy a link and again, share it with their students. Again, this one is very easy to use. And I genuinely think that even younger learners can use this recording tool at home. So, of course, one way to use it during online lessons to increase student talk time would be to give your students, for example, 5 or 10 minutes during your lesson and ask them to record their answers to the question, and then simply share the links or QR codes with their recordings in the Zoom chat box, right? So then in a very short period of time, you will have 10, 20, 30 students speaking at the same time, ideally. Of course, we don't know whether all of them will do that, but the ones who will benefit from the activity, because you as a teacher can download and save those recordings, and you can provide feedback to them after the lesson, right? Another way to do that, you can ask them, of course, to, for example, interview their classmates or interview their students if you want them to be a little bit more creative, especially with older students. You can ask them to record a book review, for example, or a book report. So there are many creative ways you can utilize this simple recording tool in your classroom. In addition to asking your students to record themselves and complete a task, I thought that teachers can use it to provide additional support to the students who sometimes struggle with feedback or struggle with understanding instructions. Again, when you teach online, you are not there to provide that additional support. So for example, very often during online lessons, students are given worksheets and they have to complete them independently, whether these are digital or worksheets or printouts. And in a classroom, you can see if somebody is struggling. You can see if a student, for example, does not understand the written instruction, if the student is not completing the worksheet. Online, it's a lot more challenging to notice that. So what you could do, you could pre-record your own instructions and, for example, include a QR code to pre-recorded oral instructions. So, for example, students who you know struggle with comprehending written instructions, you can include and share pre-recorded oral instructions with them. So even if it's a homework assignment or a test that they have to complete after the lesson, you differentiate your instructions and provide this additional support to students who you know might struggle understanding written assignments. Another way to do that is to provide oral feedback to your students. Again, in an in-person lesson, you can walk around, or when you, for example, when your students have to complete a writing assignment, you of course mark the assignments, but then if you want to provide additional feedback, you can simply ask them to stay behind after class and discuss their mistakes with them. In an online environment, it's a lot more challenging to do that. So what you could do, again, in addition or instead of providing written feedback on their work, you can simply record your feedback. And again, you can either share a link or you can even download a QR code and insert it on their worksheet and share oral feedback on their written work with them. So this will help students to connect to the comments, to connect better to the feedback that you provide them. And it might also help you to soften some constructive feedback. Also, I don't know whether students actually read the comments we give them, on their writing assignments. And I hope that, oral feedback, a pre-recorded feedback where the actual teacher is speaking to them, is providing that feedback, might get some students more motivated to actually listen and act on that feedback. So a very simple tool, but so many ways you can use it in your classroom. Another tool I'd like to present is called Spotify for podcasters. I'm sure you've all heard or perhaps used Spotify before. Spotify for podcasters is not specifically designed for education, but I actually do know several teachers who have been using it for many years successfully, especially with older students. If Vocaroo can be used with younger kids because of its simple interface, I think Spotify is better suited to perhaps secondary school students or slightly mature learners. So let me show you what it looks like. So basically, it's a podcast app, right? So you can, again, record your own voice. You can create your own podcasts. If Vocaroo is suitable for independent work, this one is perfect for group work. Why? Because students can actually join one audio room, if you can call it that way. Up to 10 students can join one podcast room, and then they can discuss and debate topics. They can have discussions in the audio room, in the podcast room. Also, Spotify for podcasters has many advanced features where you can combine several recordings into one. So if you have several groups of students, for example, discussing or debating at the same time, later on, you can combine them all into one recording. Or if you have several students giving individual presentations, later on, you can combine them into one podcast. You can also store them all on the website. You don't need to download your recordings. You can create your own account and you can store all of your recordings here. And there are many other features for you to explore as well. So again, I think this one is a little bit, it will take perhaps some time to learn how to use it, but I'm sure once you are confident with this website, you will find it very, very useful, especially with all the students, especially for practicing speaking, discussion, and debate in an online environment. All right, what else do I have here? The next one I'd like to talk about is called Animojo. So the two previous tools we talked about were mainly focusing on audio recordings. This one is a video maker, right? Again, I have tested several different video maker tools. And as I mentioned previously, I'm not very tech savvy, so it must be very easy to use for me to be able to use it. And that's how I test whether it's suitable for students or not. If I can use it, then probably students will be able to use it too. So this website, again, is a very simple video making tool. And again, there are so many ways you can use it in your classroom, like either during your lessons or as part of some after school, after class projects. So for example, instead of simply recording their presentations, you can ask your students to create a pitch and actually create a video presentation. You can turn it into a whole class competition, right? Let's say turn it into a Shark Tank competition where everybody has to submit their 30-minute pitch and then you vote for the best one, right? You can ask your students to act as news reporters, and you can ask them to deliver and record a short video news report, right? You can also ask them to create a video book report. Or for younger kids, you can ask them to, for example, record like a short show and tell where they show you their favorite toy or a picture of their family and tell you about them. There are so many ways you can use this simple tool in your classroom, and let me briefly show you how it works. All right, so again, there is a bank of pictures and videos and tracks as well that you can use, but you can also upload your own pictures and videos, up to you. Second. I need to drag it down here. Here we go. So you can add a picture or a video. You can add text. There are many different fonts to choose from, so students can be creative and play with it. And that's it. Here we go. It took me 5 seconds to create this short video, and I'm sure your students are more creative and they will have a lot more fun with this simple video making tool. All right, I think that's it from me for now, and I'll pass it over to Margaret, and Margaret will present a few more e-tools.
Thank you, Mariana.
I need to stop presenting, right?
Yes. Okay, so I will be sharing my screen. So I do have a few more tools for your reference to show you. The first one I'd like to present and show you is Parlay. It's an online platform keeping track of student discussion. So Parlay is actually assists teachers in facilitating more measurable and inclusive student-led discussions. You can manage it online or in class, as shown in the picture, to engage students in a more structured and organized way. You can create both verbal or written discussion room. Some features you can use is adding links to the discussion question, add your guiding questions, your poll questions. You can actually create your own assessment criteria, like how many times students need to ask questions and provide new ideas, and also set discussion prompts to support your student discussion. You may give students 5 minutes to think of their ideas and then type their own notes, like what is shown on the screen right now, before they discuss. And from the teacher account, you can see all the students' notes for the discussion. And from the student account, they click the button at the bottom to say if they want to add new idea, challenge an idea, build on idea, or question for other students. And you can actually manually cue students to speak up after the current speaker, or at the back end, you can set a automatic turns to force equal students as equal to speak up equally. You can also add real-time tailored feedback during the discussion to individual students, or you can just have a general feedback for the whole group of students. The platform also offers a tool for tracking participation rates and show you a breakdown of the time that students will find new ideas, challenge an idea, and so on as a whole class. Or you can choose to click to see the individual student participation breakdown table. So this is Parlay. Okay. The next one is called GimCake. GimCake is kind of like Kahoot quiz. I think a lot of teachers use nowadays. But however, while Kahoot is a quiz game, GimCake is more like a strategy game where students earn virtual currency, virtual money. As you see on the screen, they earn money by answering questions like Kahoot, and they get a freeze of 3 seconds if they answer the wrong question, wrong answer. And they may actually pause before not clicking continue button to speak to other students to ask for help or discuss strategy on how to go against the other team. You may set different game goals, like how much they should earn within the time limit, or raise to have a set amount of money of individual or team before they end the game. And during the game, this is the part which is different from Kahoot, is they can actually use their money, virtual money, to buy power-ups. Some fun power-ups like increasing the amount of money they lose or gain per question, or pay a percentage if they answer it correctly or incorrectly. There are protective and attacking power-ups they can buy, maybe prevent others from attacking, and also removing a percentage of what other player earns as an attack power-ups. Here's another game mode you can use, which is called survival, slowly survival, where the team have to go around to find different questions to answer and complete different tasks. And they have to dodge snowball from their other team. And with the answer that they answer correctly, they earn snowball to use them to hit the other team as well. So it's a little like video game kind of a game mode. They do have many other game modes. First, when you sign up, they do have a 14 Pro trial where you can try every single game. And after the 14 days, you are back down to only play free mode for the feature games. And they change the feature games according to during the year. And in a way, it may be good for the students as they actually see different kind of game if you actually keep up with the motivation, if they play different kind of style of game. Next one, the final one I'd like to show you is called class equity. So class equity is kind of like Dojo. If you use it for primary, if you're a primary teacher, you may actually heard of Dojo for classroom management. So it's like that. Class equity is a class management platform rewarding students with positive behavior and creating more positive classroom culture. However, the layout is more for older students with different features to Dojo. Students earn, save, and spend classroom money. So 4 features they have bonuses, they have bills, and as a teacher, you can create a store online. So teachers pay classroom dollars as bonus to individual students. For example, great teamwork. And you can set different kinds of bonuses to encourage more student speaking engagement. And teacher may post different jobs with salary for students to apply for. For example, student can apply for being group leader or a discussion moderator, and you can be more creative with different kind of job. And from the teacher account, you set up a store with different attractive rewards for your students, and the students will purchase different rewards that you have in your store with their classroom money that they earn. It's like a shopping cart, shopping platform. Right, that's all the e-tool we'd like to present to you. Let's have a little try with one of them with Mariana. I will stop sharing and Mariana can run the activity.
All right. Well, enough talking. Now it's time to test one of the tools. And we'd like us, we would like you to try Kialo Edu. So we would like you to scan the QR code, or Margaret is also going to share a link in the chat box. Margaret, could you please do that? So people who are using their phone to join the call, you can open it on a different device if possible. So simply join the discussion room, enter your name or a nickname, click enter, and that's it, you're in. Let's give people a moment to join the discussion room, either the QR code on the screen or a link in the chat box. Once you're in, go ahead and share your thoughts on the topic. What are the pros and cons of online learning? Here we go, the first person in. Yes, you can add your comments. You can respond to other people's comments. You can rate each other's comments. Yes, you don't need to travel anywhere. You can save so much time on commute and money too. Oh, fantastic. I can see people sharing. Oh, sharing their thoughts. Thank you everyone for joining. Right, so we have quite a few pros so far. Pros win. Oh no, oh no. We have more cons being added every second. Right, as Ben said, some students might feel shy or uncomfortable in a loud classroom, so they might actually feel more comfortable joining lessons online. You know, people said that it might be actually easier to manage your students, right? So the problems are different. It's more difficult to engage them, but it might be easier to manage them because you can simply mute them and get your class quiet in a second. Here we go. I can see people rating each other's work already. Yeah, go ahead, test some features, right? In terms of cons, people have mentioned that, again, it's difficult to make students to check if they're listening, right? To even check if they're there, if their cameras are off. How do we even know if they're there? Or maybe they're playing computer games next door, right? Not all students have, you know, family support there, or not all students have, you know, modern devices or even space at home for them to be able to join those online lessons. Learning is also socializing. Socializing is such a big part of learning and development process, especially for younger kids. Difficult to increase student talk time. Thank you, Luke. Thank you everyone for sharing. So now I'm wondering, I would like to get some feedback from you. Was it difficult for you to join the discussion room? Was it difficult to figure out how to participate in the discussion? Or was it easy? No.
Pretty easy.
People said pretty easy. Yes, it was very easy. So that's what Margaret and I did. We actually tested many different tools and we selected the ones that were actually easy to use. Because the last thing you want to do is make your lesson even more difficult and more complicated for your students. Well, I'm glad to...
Sorry, just thinking out. I think this tool will be really useful for the HKDSE speaking, like preparation for students, where they have to maybe think about like a for and against for arguments and things.
Absolutely, especially the brainstorming section or
Yeah.
preparation. Of course, we know that for the actual exam, they need to speak, not write. But as a part of the preparation and learning process, you can teach them how to develop proper arguments as a class. You know, they can see what other people are saying and they can learn from each other as well. So this could be a great way to practice before they actually are given an opportunity to speak and work in groups. Thank you, everyone. Well, it looks like we have some time left, so we can test one more tool. All right, let me move to the next slide. So right now, I would like us to reflect on what we have discussed today. Think about the curriculum you teach, you know, your own context, your students, your school curriculum, yourself as well, how comfortable you are with using technology in the classroom and during online learning as well. Which of these tools do you think would be, you could actually use? You know, I'm wondering, after we presented all these tools, do you feel like you are actually going to use at least one of them with your students? But don't share your answers in the chat box just yet, because we would like you to record your answers. And if you feel comfortable, please share your link with us in the chat box. And again, we are just testing to see how easy or how difficult it is to use these tools, right? We are not going to be evaluating your responses. So we just want to see whether you think your students can actually use those. And for this activity, we can use Vocaroo. So again, scan the QR code, or Margaret has shared a link in the chat box. And again, it's just one big red button. So when you're ready, just press the button and start speaking. When finished speaking, please press save and share, and then you can copy a link and share it in the chat box. Or you can download the QR code if you want to and share it in the chat box. And we will give you maybe 2 minutes to record your answers. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your responses with us, it's also okay. But please at least share your feedback, whether you found it easy or difficult to use. But if you are comfortable, please share links to your recordings with us in the chat box. See how easy it is to use. Excellent. Somebody sent me a private message saying that it's super straightforward and user-friendly. Thank you, Heidi. Some people said that it could be useful when you ask your students to record themselves reading. Ah, that's a good one. I haven't even thought about that. Yes, for your reading practice, not only speaking practice, right? This could be a good tool as well. Oh, thank you, Ronan, for sharing your recording as well. So let me try and listen to one and see if it works on my side.
For the record, I'm just saying the same thing.
Story Jumper would be the most useful for me, because now my main duty is teaching readers.
All right, I can hear Ronan very well. I'm not sure if you could hear the recording, but you can play it on your own device as well. We have 2 recordings shared, and I have received and can hear them very well. And Ronan said that Story Jumper would be a good one for him to try with his students, so that's good to hear. People said, yes, could be very useful, especially when you're asking students for reflections at the end of the lesson. Yes, what a beautiful voice. Yes, it's always strange to hear yourself speak. I'm not looking forward to the recording of this webinar. Thank you, everyone. Any other thoughts? I think we have about 10 more minutes left, and there are a few more things that Margaret will mention about our next session and just to Q&A and wrap up the webinar. But I would like to hear more thoughts on the tools in general. Which of these tools do you think you can actually use with your students? And please feel free to unmute yourself, or again, share chat box or for Karu, whatever
So
you
thank
prefer.
you everyone for taking your time to join this workshop. If you do have any questions later, you can contact us, me and Mariana, or ask ChatGPT, which is a very hot topic recently, a artificial intelligence chat box. I think, or we think in the office, it has the potential to support teachers and students, but it's a fairly new technology. So educators and teachers over the world are still exploring the best to utilize it in your classroom or in your lesson. If you are interested to learn more about ChatGPT or other AI tools that can help to digitalize your classroom, please join us. Our next webinar is in May. This one is in May.